Hey everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. I am so fired up. I've got like one of my all-time favorite people. You have Donna Eden here, and she is talking about her newest book, The Energies of Love, Keys to a Fulfilling Partnership. Welcome, Donna. It's always so fun. You're just like a breath of fresh air. I just love having you
Oh,
around.
thank you. Thank you. Well, I love seeing you. I'll tell you. I love this.
You're just
And I love sharing all this information because I do think it's so important,
It really is. It really, really is important. And one of the things that it's so important is that we're interacting with other people every single day. And this book, while it's actually focused on, our relationships with maybe our loved ones, it could be anything. It could be a coworker. It could be
Absolutely.
at any time you're relating to another person. I think this book
Absolutely.
is relevant. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about one of the things that's interesting is that you talk about someone's energetic stress styles, and I was just fascinated by that.
Oh, yeah. This is, I think this has brought more enlightenment to my own understanding of myself, as well as my husband, as well as everybody around me, when I really got this, that when you're very, very stressed, all of your senses go out the window except one. And now people have a hard time believing that, but
Yes.
but often after a an argument or something, you might realize that things got very distorted. You could only see in one way, and but you can't see that while you're in it. It's
Hmm.
just it's survival. It is the fight or flight has turned on, and we are streamlined to survive. So everything that is unneeded goes out the window, and and our senses. I've heard those lines all my life, those phrases. She took leave of her senses, or that kind of thing. Well, we really do take leave of our senses,
Yeah.
and because opposites attract, usually the sense that you're left with is very opposite the sense of what your partner's is. And
Right.
so suddenly you are on different wavelengths. You cannot possibly reach one another. And it has nothing to do with you or what's wrong with you or him or her.
Hmm.
It's about we're not on the same wavelength anymore. I mean, have you ever had that experience of
Yes.
feeling? Yes, you could not connect with your partner no matter what. And I mean, it was dreadful and painful, and there was no finding one another. It's because
Yes.
you're on different wavelengths. It's like being on a different
It's like
channel.
literally different wavelengths.
Literally, and you are literally on different wavelengths. So, what this book does, there's so many books on relationships out there, but this is different in the way that it's how to use the energies inside you to get on the same wavelength with another person, and
Right.
it's really helpful.
And so there are four different wavelengths. There's kinesthetic. I know that you're from reading the book. You're a kinesthetic.
Yes, I am.
I think I'm a visual from reading it. You can probably look at my energy and tell
Yes,
me. Can you tell?
yes.
Can you tell from
Yeah,
someone?
you look like a primary visual.
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
I read it. I'm like, I think I'm a visual. I looked at my husband. I think he's a tonal. And I looked at and I read and dear friend of mine is a digital, and your husband is a digital, right?
Yes, it is. David's a digital.
Okay.
So I always think, I mean, would you like me to explain?
Yes. Please tell us
Okay.
what some of those things are.
Well, okay. A kinesthetic leads from their feelings. It has nothing to do with their brain.
Hmm.
And when they get very, very stressed out, they actually check out from their brain. They're just a puddle of feelings. And the boundaries between you and another person get very, very, you can't, they're not clear boundaries. And so,
Mm.
a kinesthetic hurts for the other person, and so you often give away the store, because
Right.
you don't want the other person to hurt, but you're picking up their pain because the boundaries are just not clear, so
Uh,
you can't tell whether it's you or the other person sometimes, and you're very
oh,
sure. I mean, but you just want to alleviate the suffering from that other person. You want them to
interesting.
quit hurting. In fact, Your survival. We've always been told that survival is about, yeah, you save your life under survival things, but a kinesthetic goes and saves your life instead of
Wow,
their.
so that's fascinating because I actually was reading to a friend of mine. Like, see, I said, okay, here's the thing: you're a digital, and, and, and your girlfriend is a kinesthetic, and so for her, facts are not facts; feelings are facts.
Feelings. Yes.
And I had to read it
Feelings.
over and over again. I'm like, all the logic and all the stuff that you're giving, it's like not computing to the other person.
It's not at all. In fact, I mean, it absolutely disconnects you further to hear the other person's logic. Since my husband is also a digital,
Yeah.
and his stance is, I'm right. You know,
Right.
that's his stance. I am right. And it's not like he wants to argue with me, although I want to beat down the walls of him, you know. But he just believes that I'll come around when I see the wisdom of his logic and all of that. But actually his logic is the biggest turnoff in the world
Yes.
because it cannot reach me. And all I want from him is to have feelings. And he doesn't have any feelings in that
Right.
place. He is very disconnected from his own body, from other people. He's just gone up into his head. And it's nobody's fault. It's like
Right.
this is how we are born. And so and for him it's exasperating. Well, no, it's exasperating for me for him to be so logical. For him, it's a turn off if I start to cry because
Oh.
feelings just turn him off. Not
Oh.
normally, not when he's not stressed. Then he's kind and gentle and loving. But if he's stressed like that, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Tears and feelings. This has
Right.
nothing to do
What
with
does that have
feelings.
to do with anything? Let's solve the problem.
Let's solve the problem. Yes.
Well, and someone actually, the person who I know was saying that they feel, are you still there? I lost your picture for a sec.
Oh, I'm here. I'm
Okay,
here.
the person that I was talking to said that they start feeling emotionally exhausted. That the kinesthetic person starts feeling emotionally exhausted when they're dealing with their digital partner.
Yes.
And is that because it's like is why is it why would it be emotionally
Well, first of all,
exhausting?
think of different wavelengths. I mean, he's coming from his brain. He's not going to reach my heart under any circumstances. It's like, oh God. And you try. For a kinesthetic, you really want to beat down those walls and connect so
Oh.
bad. And and you feel incredibly alone.
Ah, all right. So
You
you're
know?
like trying to like you're trying very hard to like
Yes,
connect to
yes.
someone and it's like you're hitting a dead wall and it just
You're
feels
hitting you're
I'm
hitting a
exhausted.
you're hitting a dead wall. That's exactly right.
Oh, fascinating.
So that's
Fascinating.
kinesthetic and digital. And
Right.
I will say before I go on to the other two that nobody, none of our friends gave us a chance of surviving. And we've been together 38 years now, but nobody saw that we could possibly make it
Yeah.
because we are so different. And I mean, we were utterly incompatible in every way. and what saved us was really getting over time that those real incompatible differences were simply energy.
Mm.
And it was energy. And if you could shift the energy, something could shift and you could get on each other's wavelength again. So
Mm.
I'm going to tell you about visual and tonal.
Yeah, and let's see if we can get your camera back working. Can you try
Oh,
to click on your camera? It's gone.
yes. No. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. Let's see. No, wait a minute. See, I've got to hold on a second. I've got to get. Yes, you're going to get me in just a second.
Yay.
I think. Okay. Am I
Yes, you're
on? Okay.
on full
All right.
glory. Okay, got it. So tell us about tonal
Okay.
and visual, which that's actually my husband and me. So I'm
Oh boy.
pretty sure
All
I'm
right.
visual, and I think my
If
husband's
he's a
tonal.
tonal, okay. Tonals tonals are analytical. They can go up into their heads and into their hearts, depending on what's going on.
Hmm.
And they small specks of behavior can be exaggerated into tremendous meaning sometimes. So they are hearing what you never said at all, hearing between the lines, being sure they know what you meant, and they can check out in their heads. It becomes painful if you're not hearing them. If you don't hear them, it's painful more than anything else.
No. It makes me feel bad now when I hear that. Okay, got it. So it's painful for them.
Yes, and they can be very hurt by the tone of your voice.
Oh, it's so true. My husband's like, "Oh my God, your voice, it's like killing me."
Yes,
Oh, that makes sense. Poor
yes, and they
thing.
suffer by what they perceive as put downs, even if you're not really feeling like you're putting them down.
Okay.
They perceive them as put downs, and they really suffer. And um, they they can be, if it's really bad, they can get a little paranoid because because everything seems like it's against them, and what, even if they don't have a memory of the past comes up. Whatever allowed them to survive in the past is now the mechanisms that will help them survive in this situation. And so the past really has influence over a tonal. And I'll just back up so that you can see each one of them are different. The kinesthetic is not influenced by the past. It's all in the now. It's right now. So if you go to a therapist who wants to dig up your past, it'll do no good for a kinesthetic.
You're like, why are we talking about the past?
Yes.
I see.
But
Okay.
a tonal might be helped by going over the past, Let's see what else. They can withdraw from you, being very sure that you've rejected them.
Huh. Now I'm not sure if my husband's a tonal. There's parts of him in that are that, and then parts of I can actually relate to a lot of those things as well. So it's kind
Well,
of hard.
I was going to say you look like you're at least a secondary tonal.
Okay.
I mean, and you might find that you're first tonal and not secondary. I'll tell you the other one in a minute.
Yeah.
But a tonal can tune out the whole world and go internal.
Okay. No, I'm not very good at
And
doing that.
they can be self-critical. Very self-critical. They can also be critical of others, but it has more to do with being critical of themselves. They have sonar. They can pick up the tiniest little vibe. Did you know that you're gone now?
Yes.
I don't see.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm gone now.
you're gone.
Because you're gone. Oh, now
I'm
yeah, I'm back.
okay.
Now you're back. Okay, got it. So that's interesting. So, I'm wondering now, gosh, I don't know if I'm a visual or tonal because I actually tell us about visual too, because I
Well,
really
you
relate
look
to
like
those.
both a visual and a tonal, but a visual is somebody who has power coming out of their eyes. So under stress, other people feel really looked at when a
Right.
visual looks at them.
No, that's me for sure. Under stress, it's kind of like the boys.
Yeah,
I mean, I can just look. I remember when I was a little kid, I'd be like, and then they would just stop, and people are like, "How
yeah,
did you do that?" I'm like, "They just know that look. If they
yeah.
don't stop,
The-
it's
It's,
going to be over."
that's it. That's a
Okay.
visual, and a visual are those people who say, let's see, I don't trust anyone who doesn't look me straight in the eyes when we're dealing with something.
Yeah.
and and I'm a secondary visual.
hmm
So when my kids were little, I realized that because I'm holding it together and there's no stress, but my kids are stressed, and I might say, "Now, honey, look at me when I talk to you." Well, they both checked out. They were both tonal. One was
Oh,
tonal.
so they went inside.
Yes, they went inside when I just say, "Look at me when I talk to you," because suddenly you're on different wavelengths.
I hear that a lot.
I'll give
Yeah.
you a great line from my tonal daughter. She said, see if I can remember it. Um, Don't look at me in that tone of voice.
That is so funny. That's
I know.
hilarious, but that's probably what it feels like to a tonal. Oh my
Yes, yes,
God.
yes, yes, yes.
That's
Okay,
fabulous.
so visuals see precisely what is wrong in a situation and what others are doing wrong, and in a really close relationship, you can see what your partner is doing
Right.
wrong, and for the partner, sometimes they can feel blamed and criticized
Yes.
and all of that. But from the visuals point of view, you're giving them a gift. You're
I
trying
know.
to
I'm just
show
telling you
them
what to do that's right.
what to do that's right.
What's your problem? I'm trying to help you.
Yes, that's exactly. That's exactly. So,
Oh gosh. Yeah. So that you have these different types, and what's interesting, you just said you have in the book you talk about that you have a primary type and then a secondary type. So
yes,
so
yes.
and
Like
you're seeing in me that I actually have
yeah, I
probably
think you're
two.
secondary tonal because you
Yeah.
look at many years ago, about 25 years ago, I was hired by New York University
Mm-hmm.
to look at black and white films of speakers and see if
Mm.
I could tell what sensory system they were. And I got it about
Fascinating.
96%.
Whoa.
That's without hearing their voices. I couldn't hear them talk. It was all silent, just watching their mannerisms and the shapes of their faces and bodies and things. So it's really an energy thing. It's not something we decide or think, well, if I get a little therapy, I can get over this. No.
I'll be kinesthetic if I just try harder.
Yes, right. So,
Yeah, so that's not going to happen. You're just, it's kind of a given energy. But and here's the thing, because I said to my husband, I said, well, I think I'm visual and you're tonal. And he's like, oh no, I'm visual. And I said, I know, I know you're a visionary
yeah.
and you want to
Well,
be visual, but I think that you may be tonal. And he
yeah,
said,
you know,
I
the
don't
thing
know.
about tonals often think that they're other things because they sit in between. They sit in
Mm,
between the visual, the feeling, the digital. They can kind of go into those
mm,
different directions. And if they're not stressed, they really can grab all these different ways of being.
ah,
But when they're stressed, it's different. And just like a visual can be, I don't know, critical, so can a tonal.
mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm.
but for very different ways. A tonal feels critical because they've been beaten up. You know?
Okay. Yes. I'm only laughing because I know my poor husband. He's like, do I get a chance to say anything? I'm like, no, I'm not done yet. Let me tell you the other 10 things that you've done that are wrong, that you've wronged me.
Yeah. I've got to go lock my door. Somebody's just walked in.
Yeah,
And I'm
sure. Okay,
sorry.
honey. All right. All right. So we've been talking to Donna Eden, and her husband and Donna wrote this book. David Feinstein wrote this book, The Energies of Love, and using energy medicine. And so we've been just talking about the four different energetic stress styles. And so we've talked about all four. Now let's talk about, and we've talked a little bit about how they work together because I think it's really, whether it's like two friends or a
Uh,
mother and a daughter or a husband and a wife. I mean, I think it's important to know what the style is because once you know the style, then you can kind of accommodate for
yes.
whatever. So let's take David and your style. So now that you know that he is, he's a digital, you're kinesthetic. How do each of you work together, knowing like how does that change the way you interact?
Well, first of all, when we're not stressed, I mean, we've really learned this over time. And so we learned that it becomes a strength when we're not stressed in our lives.
Oh, okay, that's
Yes, it
interesting.
really becomes a strength. And I would say that David has become more kinesthetic over time.
Hmm.
And I have gotten more form and some of that digital nature. I'm not a digital by any shape or but I like it. I can access it now in a way. So boy, we really can play well together and
Yeah.
we're in harmony. I mean, it took us so long to finally get to that place because we tried to go the psychological route, which had no help for us at all because it had nothing to do with, I don't know, fixing something.
Mm-hmm.
It had to do with really understanding our energies and knowing what we could do to shift them so that we were on a same wavelength. But now it's easy. Even if we get stressed out or get mad at each other, it lasts like that. It's over so fast because you know instantly what to do, and it's really good. But in the early days, you know, you don't want to stop. You want to keep pummeling them, or you want.
I know. It's like picking at a thread. Oh, what's that thread? You know, the whole sleeve falls off of the sweater. I know, but I do think over time you get smarter. Like I'll say to my husband, I'll say, okay, like we can either talk about this for 2 hours or 2 minutes. It's your choice.
That's good.
And I'll just say, just repeat what I just said, and I'll repeat what you just said. And then we'll come up with a solution, okay? Because otherwise we're just going to be arguing about your perspective on it and my perspective. And I'm already going to agree with you that my perspective is already half flawed, minimally, if not more than that. So let's just go on.
Yeah,
so what do you do? What do you guys do?
Well, one of the things, we do a whole lot of things, but one of the things that we learned to do in the beginning was we had to figure out a way to stop it. Because when the adrenaline is going and that fight or flight is on, you don't want to stop. So we made a pact to stop, that either one of us could call on the pact, and the first thing we had to do was stop. And so to stop meant he would do something different than I would do. But in order to stop, I'll do an exercise, an energy exercise.
Right.
That'll help me just move out of the space that I'm in. And maybe it's tapping on K27 or for me, I get scrambled real fast. So I do something called the Wayne Cook posture.
Right, where you put the foot on.
Yes, that's exactly it. And suddenly I'm not scrambled anymore, and I'm a little bit more with myself and not with him.
Right.
And so we just have these tools to stop everything. And then we take a little bit of time away from each other, or not, depending on what's going on. But we do exercises. David, here's David. Here's a good digital thing. David, because he's so up in his head, he has a simple exercise of, I'll say it with you, okay? It's notice breath. And that's all he does. It's just notice breath, soften belly. And he just makes his belly as soft as he can. And then he brings his hand up to his heart, both hands, open heart. And that just brings him into his body. And we've just found these things that are really, really, really helpful.
I see. So for you, I don't know, does Wayne Cook help create boundaries? Because if what you're doing is merging with other people, you don't even know what you're thinking anymore.
Yes, it creates boundaries, and it unscrambles my nutsiness. I mean, because I'm so not in my head at all, suddenly I've got a clear head and I can think again.
And then for him, he's in his head, and so all this kind of stuff kind of like gets him back into his body.
Yes.
Interesting. Yes. Are there different ones that you would use for a visual and a tonal, let's say?
Yes, well, it depends. People are different, but let's see, tonals. I'm thinking of a bunch.
You don't have to reveal names.
Okay, here's a good one for a tonal. If you just take a very, very, very deep breath in and just sort of reach your arms up high and very, very slowly let your breath down and your arms down to your side. You've drawn yourself up out of your body and out a little bit because they go so internal and trying to figure out the way. So that helps them go out. There's several that go out. I'm going to push myself away from the table a little bit. Is lifting themselves up and taking out.
Okay.
Always with the breath. The tonals are really good with the breath.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And a visual often needs to blow it out.
I
It's
think
like,
is anger probably one of the big things for visuals, right? For me,
yes,
that's anger.
yes. And so you put your arms out in front of you with a fist, and then you swing your arms above your head and just,
It's like a tantrum.
and then at the end, and then at the end, zip yourself up, come all the way up, and just do the same thing. Reach above your head and very slowly let down. And when you let down, when you come down, okay. You bring your hands down and bring your hands down to the bottom of your body, and just look down. Just look down your body, and then draw your hands up slowly and just watch your hands. So you're not in your head anymore. And then you bring your hands to your heart chakra.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I exist. Me and my wonderful thoughts are not the only thing. I see. So kind of like it gets all your anger and like
Yeah,
I'm right and I'm blowing my top. So you get it all out.
get
You
it
kind
all
of
out.
smooth it out, and then you're like, oh wait a second, there's a body attached to this head, and I'm back in my heart.
Yes.
I love it.
One of the things that, okay, so as the pack goes on and you want to come together again, and you're kind of after doing a few exercises,
Mhm.
you're ready to reconnect on the same wavelength. And if you took right from where you left off, sometimes David and I will do that together when we think that maybe we can reach each other. We draw our hands up all the way up to the heart,
Mhm.
and then you look across to your partner whose hands
Oh,
are on their heart,
and you're
and
like,
it touches you.
oh. It's such a simple thing.
It's such a simple
But
thing.
then, when you look at someone, you're like, you
Oh
poor
yeah.
thing.
Oh.
I
I mean,
did that to you.
I mean, it is amazing to me because David, he gets more and more up into his head, very digital, very Dr. Spock like,
Yeah,
and then suddenly he's holding his heart and he looks like an innocent little
little
boy.
boy, and you're like, oh
Oh
my God.
yeah. And he looks in my eyes and he's very soft by that time.
Interesting. Okay, so you stop, you take a break. I know you use the adjective as it's
Star.
star. Okay, so S is for stop, T is
And
a
tap is for tap.
tap.
A T is for tap, and that stands for any kind of the exercises you
Yeah,
might
whether
have
it's
to.
this one
Yeah,
or this
whatever it
one.
is. Yeah, yeah. And then A is attune. You've attuned back to
Right,
each
so
other.
this is kind of you look back at
Yes,
each other and
yes.
that's the heart.
And then you get to resolve it. And one of the things that in resolving and this is good for every type, but boy, is it good for a tonal. It's you want to um, like we do two things that it is more on the. I mean, using your verbal skills, and I've come back and I've got verbal skills again.
Right. I'm back into not no longer a wild beast, right? Because it's you're in survival mode,
Yeah,
right?
you're in survival mode.
Right.
And I mean, literally, I'll tell you how true it is before I tell you the resolve. Many years ago, I was asked to come and speak to a uh, dental medical hypnosis society.
That's very specific.
And it was a huge group of people, and I was getting more stressed watching them
Oh
because
no.
they get up and walk on the stage. They had their paper and they stood at a podium, and would lift up off the paper, but would constantly come back to the paper. And then when they were through, they would hand their paper to somebody who would then put it in a journal.
Oh
And
gosh, that's
I,
awful.
I was on the I was on the third day and I was terrified. I suddenly had become so stressed out, and I thought, oh my God, I don't have a paper. I've got to pull my paper together. And at lunchtime, I'd gone completely kinesthetic. At lunchtime, I was writing all these notes down on napkins. And right after lunch, it was my turn, and I went up on the stage. Even though visual is my secondary, it flew out the window, and I'm looking down at my paper, my
Your
stacks of
napkin?
napkins, and I can't read the words. They seem like strange foreign objects on this
Oh,
page, and
no.
I can't read them. I've gone completely kinesthetic, and I'm looking out at the audience, and they all look like visuals staring at me with
Yeah.
power coming out of their eyes.
Why are you wasting my time?
Yes, yes, get her off the stage. I actually wanted somebody to come with a cane, and and hold me up. And I saw David at the back of the audience, and he looked paralyzed with
Oh,
fear about what I was doing. But then nobody was saving me, and I stood up there and started to cry.
oh, honey.
And then,
God.
and then, but what happened was just this little miracle. I just stepped aside from the podium, and it was just spontaneous. But I tried to explain why I was crying, and I said, "You see, I'm a kinesthetic, and da 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 da." And that's the subject that I was supposed to be talking on.
Oh.
And I ended up talking about how they all look like visuals staring at me. Everybody got it. And I'll tell you,
Oh,
it really loosened up the conference after that.
Then you handed your like, and there's my kinesthetic speech. Here are my napkins.
Here's my napkin.
Goodbye.
But
Wow.
it's just watch yourself the next time. If you're really in a deep stress, your secondary isn't going to bail you out. It's like it's just we really do go to one. My oldest daughter is a tonal first. She's kinesthetic second.
Mm.
But as a tonal first, as a little girl, I mean, I turned on a dime and completely changed how I was raising my kids because I realized they were different. I couldn't reach them in the same way. Like if I said to Tanya, honey, I want to talk to you about something. That was it to send
Oh,
her into her survival mode.
yeah. Yeah.
So it's like I even learned to talk to her differently because in order to reach her, I had to understand her tonal side. It helps so much. It also helps people to be more curious about their partner.
Mm-hmm.
Curious and not just, yes, compassionate, but that curiosity will really get you a lot of places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how do you resolve this? So the R and the
Okay,
star
so
is
the
resolve.
resolves, when we come back to resolve, there's two things there's several things we do. And we might do exercises too, but I'm going to tell you about some of the verbal things. Okay, whatever it was I was saying, or whatever it is David was saying, the other one will say, did you mean, and try to say it.
Right.
And then the partner will say, you don't have any conversation together, except the partner will say, no, I didn't mean that. Or yes, I meant it. And you want to get 3 yeses from your partner before you can quit asking them.
Oh, that's
Well,
a good way of doing it.
yeah, well, did you mean this? And it could be, well, half, but that wasn't quite
Yeah,
it.
not exactly, but
Yeah,
like
and so
now that you've mentioned it, that also pissed me off.
yeah,
I'll give you half a point.
well, yeah, but that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
That's the truth, but not what
Yeah.
I'm saying. But when you get 3 yeses that you feel, wow, yes, that's what I meant,
Yeah.
and then you let them know you feel completely heard or not,
Right.
and then you do it with your partner. Is this what you meant? And try to say it. And what is so funny, David and I just taught a class up in Victoria, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a couple on the stage, and I was already laughing hard because she was kinesthetic and he was digital, and
Oh.
it's like us. But when it was all over, I mean, this man didn't have a clue of why she was crying and feeling bad. He didn't have a clue, and it wasn't his fault. But when it was all over, David said, Donna, he didn't have a clue. And I said, that's right. That's what digitals do. He said, I've never been like that, have I?
Yes, you have. Well, that's and is it almost like if you're so if I'm a digital and I'm talking to a kinesthetic, it's like, did you mean your feelings were hurt? Like, is there almost like an easier path to go down? Because I think the did you mean, like a digital will be thinking, did you mean that that didn't make sense to you? You know, like they're not even
Uh,
talking your language. Is there a way
yes.
of to
It's
do that?
first of all, you get to the place once you've done the other things that you've done some exercises, you can now access other systems. So a
Oh,
digital doesn't go to that place. Earlier, if you hadn't done the exercises, he would or she would.
oh,
But when you get to this place where you're cleared, so you're just trying to give the feedback of the precise words they were saying, what her words were saying or his words were saying. Not, it didn't make logical sense, but more like if I was saying, I don't know, what would I say? That I don't know. I can't
I
remember
don't
an
really
argument.
like. Okay, so like I don't really like how you treated me with your friends.
Yes, and so the digital would say, "Well, are you saying you really didn't like how I was treating you with your friends?" And she'd say, "Yes," but he might have said, "Are you? Did you mean that that I'm treating your friends better than you?" And she's, "Well, not
No,
quite."
no, that's not what I
So
mean.
you
Yeah.
want to get the precise, and it really helps the situation.
Really, do you feel irritated though when the person keeps on getting the did you mean and they get a series of no's, or you're like, see, you just don't understand me?
Yeah,
Or
well,
does
that's
it
what happened in this class. We thought, oh, the marriage is going to end. But instead, what you saw and what the kinesthetic saw was, oh my God, he really doesn't have a clue. He's really lost, and it isn't about me. It's about he
Oh.
spins in a world that is really cut off. And so she started having real caring about him
Oh.
because you felt that this was really a marriage in serious trouble. And suddenly she was caring about him and getting curious about. And so when it was her turn, she also wanted a separate turn of, do you mean that you're not feeling about me at all? You're not feeling? He said, as he said, it's not, but I know I love you. I
Oh.
just can't feel it.
Oh, poor thing. Like that's sad.
But you find one another in telling those kinds of truths,
Yeah.
and that at other times he could feel it when he could access other systems, but not when he's stressed. And if everybody could really get that it is survival, we haven't changed in a couple of million years how we react to stress. And boy, I deeply feel that if you do these energy exercises, you start evolving. You
Hmm.
start. I mean, it takes me so much longer to drop into a difficult place like that
Right.
with anybody, because because your brain starts evolving so that you don't have to go to that really primal place when you're stressed out anymore.
Well, what I think is so interesting, and in the last chapters of your book, you talk about, that, and it was interesting. You talk about, you mentioned earlier how many people look at David and yourself and are like, what? And in fact, I love the story in the book where he talks to three astrologers and they're like, you
Oh
guys are doomed.
yes, yes.
Don't even bother. And actually, if you were to look at my husband and me, people are like, you're together. What? Like, what? Like we just do not seem like
Yeah,
we would be compatible whatsoever. I
that's
mean, it's
that's
like,
right.
why do you like her? It's just people don't
Exactly.
get it at all. But then I was thinking, you mentioned this in your book too, and we were talking to Donna Eden in her book, The Energies of Love. You were talking about how you're soulmates, like you were meant to be with each
Yes,
other, and in fact,
yes.
your opposites attract, or because it's meant to have each of your soul
I,
evolve.
I,
Like,
I,
didn't you
I,
say?
we both feel this. We feel that. I mean, there's some, whatever you think about that's out there orchestrating all of this. There's some divine joke. it's like, it's like in order to get opposites together, you've got to have that chemistry of
Yeah.
opposites. But then later on is the chemistry of, oh God, pulling
Yeah.
apart. And but if you get through this, if you learn and evolve, you take on some of your partner's way of seeing it, knowing it, and you become a bigger person. And
Mm.
I mean, at this particular class I taught, there was a woman in the class who hadn't seen us teach in probably 10 years. And where her mouth fell open was she couldn't believe this was David. He'd become so soft and kinesthetic and all these other ways of being and amazingly tuned in. He used to say the sensory system that he was least able to access was his tonal ability.
Oh.
I actually think that's the one that has grown so big in him. And a tonal at their best, oh my God, they're incredible. They like your tonal husband can be your best friend when you guys aren't in stress, because you really love the way he picks up nuances. It's just.
Yeah, we can have conversations. He's like, "Oh no, that would feel awful if someone did that to me." I'm like, "I know, right?"
Right.
Like he can pick up, or it's like,
Yes.
She said what?" I'm like, "I know, right?"
Yeah, right. That's just exactly. And I probably have more tonal friends than any other type that I'm attracted to, not in relationship, but out there in the world, because if I get real stressed out, I can lose my words completely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have words. I can even lose my truth. Mm-hmm. What in the world was I going to say? And where did I stand on that? And it goes on. But my tonal friends don't need my words. They can pick it up, as long as they're not stressed out. They can hear between the lines, and it's fabulous.
Yeah, and I can do that when I'm not stressed out, because I do think that my secondary is tonal, because someone will
You know
say
what?
something.
It has to be tonal, and I'll tell you why. Just as I'm sitting here with you in this time, you're a great interviewer, and you're real interested, and you're really good at that, and you can hear between the lines, and you're great at that.
Okay, so that means I'm tonal.
Yes.
All great interviews are tonal. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the things that you guys do, because now, if you kind of look at it and go, okay, there's a star, right, which is like you need to have the emergency road kit when there's a flat tire.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of the building and supporting to kind of cultivate, like, okay, we are different. That's why the world brought us together.
Yeah.
How do you guys cultivate that spiritual connection between the two of you?
One of the things that has gotten better, much better over time, and I love this about us, is that we touch each other a lot, and we hug each other a lot, and we don't finish off the hug. We'll hold each other for a little bit of time.
I totally know about the finish off. My husband had to train me. He'd say, wait. He's like, now you can go.
Right.
I love
But we
it.
have a lot of different exercises that have turned out to be really good for bringing us deeper and closer together. And I'll tell you, just coming out of survival mode with your partner, being hardly going there anymore, will suddenly make all of those things between you just start weaving a field together that you can go into deeper and deeper places. And it's just like that. You were talking about the three astrologers. I don't know if you remember about what the fourth astrologer said.
Yeah, the fourth one said that this is a person that's going to really, and which,
Yes.
thank goodness she was there.
Yes, I often think, thank God I didn't leave him when I should have.
Yeah.
It's like, I really should have left that guy. But no, he's so perfect now.
Yeah.
But yes, she went deeper in the astrology and just saw that, he does feel like my soulmate. And we have a whole lot of things. A lot of things we do in bed, and a lot of things we do one of the things that I'm so sure of is that foreplay lasts all day long. How loving you are to each other, and how sweet.
That's a perfect way of describing it.
Yeah, it's really true. It's like, who wants to jump into bed with somebody you've just had to disconnect with all day?
Yeah.
But when he's loving, then I want to cuddle with him, and I just want to be grateful I've got him. That's another thing we do. We do at the end either at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, depending on whether we've got to get up and run, we really do our gratitudes to each other. What I'm
Yeah.
grateful about you being
That's
in my
so
life.
great.
Yeah, we say thank you a lot to each other. And you know, another thing that David does, and it sounds like, well, why don't you both do it? Sometimes I will, but David does it more for me. and and he will be the first to admit it was much more important for him to do it for me than me to do it for him. And that is because he's so disconnected from his body and he's up in his head. He can disconnect from me. At least once a day, he will give me what we call a quickie. And a quickie is not maybe what you're thinking of.
Yeah,
A
this is a
quickie
spinal
is
massage, right?
a spinal massage. And for him, it's a way of, oh, coming out of his head and being connected up to me.
Ah.
And it's so touching and that he wants to do that every day
I think
because
it's sweet. It's fantastic. And the
it
spinal
is.
massages, you go all the way from the bottom of their spine all the way up, and you're just going to the vertebrae and pinching, or what are you doing?
You just go down either side of the spine and you just push in. If you want, you can go around in little tiny circles, but just on the edge of the
So
spine.
in between the vertebrae, you're just kind of
Yes, in
pushing,
between
or
the vertebrae and go down all the way to the sacrum because the sacrum really collects a lot of murky stuff.
yeah.
And but it clears me of any emotional stuff I'm carrying. And for him, it's like he's loving me up, and it's so wonderful how
Oh.
he's really moved into his feelings by the time he's through with that. And so
Oh, wait, so it helps him too to do that. So he's
it
not doing it
helps him.
for.
It
It's not
helps
like
him.
let me help you, help me.
No,
It's more. It's really to help both of you, but
it
mostly
really does.
for him.
But for him, I would say it's even more helpful for him because
Um,
he's up in his head too much. And now he's really giving to another person. He's looking at my body, he's seeing how much he's helping, and he's moved out of his head. And boy, by the time we finish that little and at the end of that, we also do gratitudes. And
oh,
so, and
sweet.
it's wonderful. It's just so wonderful. You feel so close to each other.
Mm. Okay, so you're teaching classes now. It sounds like you were
Yes.
just in Victoria. Are you still teaching classes on this book, The Energies of Love?
Yes, we are. And since it's coming out again in January or February as a paperback, we're doing a lot of them all over the place right now.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.